Welcome to Combat Zone 360, where we discuss everything military. Today on our show, we have a FDNY firefighter and Marine veteran, Aaron Clark. Thank you for joining me today,
Thank
Aaron.
you for having me, Jay.
Yes. So what I like to do with my guests is I really like to start off by learning a little bit about where you came from. If you could explain that.
Absolutely. I grew up in California, in Monterey Bay, Santa Cruz, California. Spent the decent amount of my childhood there, and then did travel around a little bit before that, from Monterey to Washington a little bit, and then ended up back in Santa Cruz, California. And I had a really good friend of mine who was joining the military, joining the Marine Corps, and he came up to me and said, "Hey, man, it's like, I want to join the Marine Corps." What? Like, I don't know about that. I was like, "Have fun." Yeah. And then he said, he's like, "What do you think about going with me?" I was like, you know what? Sure. I'm in. Let's do it. So we joined the Marine Corps together, and still friends to this day. And and we've been friends since elementary school. So
oh wow! With you coming from California, I know that you traveled around quite a bit. What really brought you out to New York City?
Well, I had a friend of mine who was when I got out of the Marine Corps, and when I was in the Marine Corps, one of my friends had got out, and he came to New York, and he became a New York City police officer.
Okay.
And New York City is extremely great to veterans. They give a 5-point preference to veterans, and it's a very pro-veteran city. So he's like, "Come on and move out here. It'd be great." So in 2001, I sold my house in San Diego and moved out to New York.
Oh, so just uprooted the family, huh?
Yeah, me and my wife, we came out, and I took the test in 2002, and took a little while to get on. Waited around a little bit until 2008. Got on and loved the job. It's a great job.
So when you were in the Marine Corps, what did you do while you were in the Marine Corps? I
was an ammo tech, 2311, for 3rd Battalion, 11th Marines, India Battery.
Okay.
It was a great company. We were stationed at 29 Palms. I was in 94 and 98.
I'm very familiar with 29 Palms.
Oh, yeah. The stumps.
Oh, yeah. So how many years did you do in?
I did 4 years.
4 years? So you just did your first tour and got out?
Just did my first tour and got out. Okay. I wanted to pursue firefighting or law enforcement. I kind of went along the public safety workforce, and more towards firefighting than police. But if either one would have been great. Great job.
Nice. So how did your wife feel about you uprooting and coming out this way?
Well, she's actually originally from Jersey. Okay. So it all worked out, actually. She came back, spent some time with her family. It was good. It was actually a good transition. And we actually lived with her parents for a while when we first moved. So that was they liked it. It was a good. They didn't want us to leave.
Yeah.
Just hanging out, talking. It was like getting to visit with them for a couple of years. So
exactly.
It was good.
So with you being from California and her being from New Jersey, how did the connection happen?
I met her in 29 Palms. She was out with her dog, out on just hanging out in there's this place called 29 Palms Inn. Mm-hmm. And so went out there, and I happened to meet, and we kind of hit it off, and then got married a couple of years later. So it was good.
Nice. So she moved out there, or she was just out there visiting?
She was living out there at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she was living out there.
A lot of people just don't up and go to 29 Palms.
No, it really is. I mean, as somebody that's not in the military and being forced to live there,
exactly,
it's a beautiful place. You have the Joshua Tree, but if the military is kind of a different thing when you're camping out in the desert and and not really getting to appreciate. You can appreciate the stars. That's about it.
Exactly.
Although actually, if I was I was telling somebody just recently that I was stationed there when the Hellbop comet went over,
Oh, wow.
and we had night vision goggles.
Yeah.
And to see a comet with night vision goggles was incredible. It was like you could see the whole thing just from your eyes, where it was a little bit harder. I think it was harder to see without the night vision, but the night vision actually helped. So that was like the one bonus about being there. But it was a good station, good duty. A lot of great friends from it. Still this day, actually, I had lunch with one of the guys I was stationed with today. So he's
Nice.
He works in Queens.
Yeah, one thing about the military, you end up being a family.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Lifelong family right there.
For sure.
So I know I brought you on the show for one particular reason, and that's the Spartan Sword.
Yes.
The Spartan Sword, I know you guys, I've heard you speak about it before, and I thought it was an amazing job that you guys were doing, and I said, this is one thing I have to promote on the show.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you could tell us a little bit about the Spartan Sword.
Yes, absolutely. So this is a piece of World Trade Center steel. I take this everywhere I go with the sword. This piece in particular is among many pieces that were given to the families of the firemen that we lost. So when they gave them the flag, they gave them a piece of steel. And the pieces that were left over, they had a box of them, like a bunch of them. And one of the guys who is since now retired, he would take them down to Walter Reed, Bethesda. He would give them out to a lot of the veterans that are wounded. His name's Danny Prince. He's the heart of the fire department. He does above and beyond what you could imagine a fireman doing for his brothers and sisters, and for the 9/11 families. Even still to this day, they run a fire family transport, and they facilitate vehicles for wounded firefighters as well as firefighters that are battling World Trade Center sicknesses, so, which is quite a few, actually a lot. So Danny was bringing these down to Walter Reed, and he met this soldier named Boone Cutler. Boone Cutler he was from Nevada, and he was having a hard time, and he was talking to Boone, and so he had Boone had created this pledge, the Spartan Pledge, and the pledge goes, I will not take my own life by my own hands until I talk to my battle buddy first. My mission is to find a mission to help my warfighter family. And that pledge is kind of a two-part pledge, where you have the person who's struggling, who makes that promise to talk to that person. Say, hey, I'm in a rough spot. I will contact somebody. It just makes that promise of contacting somebody. And the second part is to help your warfighter family, which can be translated to any group. It doesn't have to necessarily be military. Yeah. Although our military group thrives off of pledges and packs. We are pack-driven, pledge-driven fighters that want to be there for our brothers and sisters,
exactly,
no matter what.
Yeah.
So Boone Cutler, he took this pledge, and he's been going, all over the place with a pledge, and he met Danny, and so him and Danny started talking, and this guy named Steve Luker, Daniluk, who was also a pilot in the Marine Corps, he happened to know another guy named Carl Monger, who is in charge of the Gallant Few. I'm sure it's a very large charitable organization that has a significant amount of charities underneath the Gallant Few, and they do everything. But it's a very large veteran transition group.
Okay.
So Carl Monger said, hey, I got a guy who can take this steel and turn it into a sword, because Danny, Boone, and Steve kind of said, let's make a Spartan sword out of this steel for your Spartan Pledge. So they got it down to Texas. They took the steel down to Texas, and Carl Monger brought it to a guy named Shane Stanton and he was at the time he was in McKinney, Texas, and he was a famous swordsmith. So they got the sword down to McKinney, Texas, and it took quite a long time to have this made. Shane wanted this to be a battle-ready sword, so I could take this right now and chop a tree down with it, take it to battle.
Wow.
This is not a
dull show sword.
A show sword.
Yeah.
This is a real sword.
Yeah.
The burl that's on the handle was actually given to him by a Vietnam veteran who had died, and it had been on his shelf for a long time, and he was looking for a very special place for it to use for it. So he said, "I'm going to use this burl." The handle is made out of bridge pins from a bridge in Washington State, and the steel is meant to, I don't know if you can see it, it's meant to resemble a flag, the lines in the flag.
Okay. Yeah, I can see the lines.
Yeah. And they had inscribed fortitude, honor, and sacrifice on one side. And on the other side, it's 9/11/01, and then lest we forget in Latin, we have the fire, 343, the Port Authority, the police, and the 2 flights, the numbers. So once it was, Shane had made it. This was approximately 5 years ago. Danny started, well, first of all, when it came back from Texas, it was received in an honor, like everyone from the baggage handlers, and they put it on the machine to bring it back in the plane. They had a whole service for it. They brought it in, and since that day, thousands of men and women are alive today not directly because of the sword, but it's a tool that they use to help them deal with what they've battled.
Yeah. And before we get into that, I do want to ask, so the sword itself is 9/11 steel.
Correct.
Now, the metal pieces around the handle, they came from a bridge in Washington?
It was a bridge pins from a bridge in Washington. And he used, apparently when they do a Damascus forge, I'm not too familiar with it, but they do have to layer it with, he layered it with a heavier steel. Okay. So that's what gave it the toughness. So when he forged it in a Damascus forge. So it was, extremely hard.
Strong. Okay.
And strong.
Wow.
Yeah. So Danny started doing stuff with the DAV, and he also did some stuff with the American Legion, the VFW. It doesn't really have a specific organization. All organizations have used it because of its therapeutic properties. This is the reason why a lot of men and women are struggling. This is the reason why they fought, because of the steel. I know that our fire department and the families appreciate the struggles that the men and women have done for the steel.
Yeah.
And because of that, when somebody does a pledge, they're putting their hands on a piece of steel that is basically the reason why they are who
overseas.
They are, why they're overseas, why they're fighting, why, exactly why. The reason why is because of this steel. So when you bring it to somebody, in New York City, we're kind of saturated with September 11th. It's we know people, we see it, it's all around us. Whereas, if you just got out of the military, being from Kansas, in the middle of Kansas, you don't have that connection. You may not know anyone in your entire city that has a connection to this day.
Exactly.
But this is why they're fighting. So. Yeah. I mean, as a post 9/11 veteran, you come back here and you know why you're fighting. This is it. You see it in the out just day to day.
Exactly.
where a lot of people don't, you know. And so when they transition, they go back into their jobs. They, you know, it's a struggle, you know, like they have various struggles, and this gives them a purpose. It's not necessarily the final answer.
Yeah.
But it definitely is a very great tool that people can use to just get past that little spot where they're having a hard time.
No, and I agree. I mean, this is something that is amazing. I know you guys came to the American Legion that I'm a member of and spoke, and when that happened, it moved my heart in the right direction. I'm like, you know, I have to promote this as much as possible. And I know we've been trying to get you on this show for a while, but it lined up perfectly where we're almost at, you know, where we're right here in September.
Yes.
And it's, you know, perfect timing.
Absolutely.
Things work in mysterious ways. But what I would love for you to do is tell us one of your best stories about this sword.
All right, I can tell you a couple. They have one of my good friends today. It was my first time I had taken the sword. Danny couldn't make it to this event. It was in the middle of Pennsylvania, not too far from Oil City, Pennsylvania, and I drove to this. It was a benefit. Boone Cutler was also there to give the Spartan pledge with the sword. And again, Boone Cutler is a veteran celebrity in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. Not to discount that place in Pennsylvania, but it's, you know, he's like, I'm going to do this pledge, and he goes everywhere. You know, there's no place that he doesn't go, because it's just like, you know, everyone's in the struggle. So anyway, I get to Pennsylvania, and there's a man and a woman outside in the parking lot, and I was a little early, so I take the box, and this box is, you know, very big, and I have to lug it all over the country sometimes. But I get out, and the woman comes up to me. She says, "Is this a sword?" And I said, "Yeah, it's a sword." And she's like, "Can I please do the pledge right now?" I said, "Sure." You know, like I didn't really understand the significance of the sword until this day, and so I said, "Yeah, sure. You know, let's do the pledge." And so we did the pledge, and me and her, and me and this couple. So I had asked them during lunch or during dinner, so, you know, what's the story with you guys? You know, where are you guys from? And she says, "I'm from Colorado." And the guy's like, "Yeah, I'm from Michigan." And I said, "Really? So how did you guys know each other?" I said, "Well, we were both attached to an engineer. We were both from an engineer detachment in Michigan." And they were, I believe they were in Fallujah, and they lost a significant amount of their convoy.
Oh, wow.
Twice. So she is from Michigan. So that day, or a couple days before, he drove from Michigan to Colorado to pick her up, because she was going to kill herself. She was, you know, actively saying this is it. And so I said, "You know what, let's do this. You know, let's do this thing for Boone Cutler and what Boone represents, and they're bring the sword there. Boone's going to be there. It's this whole thing." So we kind of sat at this table, and he drove all the way to Colorado, picked her up, and then drove all the way to Pennsylvania within a day's time. And she did the pledge, and it's what she needed. You know, it was definitely what she needed. So she's still alive today. Good. You know, she's still alive today, and on top of it, I have been to 2 of their veteran awareness suicide hikes. They do a 22-mile hike in Michigan. It's amazing. They have, you know, it's 22 miles, and they talk about, you know, various things. And they bring veterans that are not there. It's kind of like a transitional thing where veterans who aren't part of any group, they say, "You know, come on, let's just go for a walk," you know, and they get to know each other, and they talk, and it's 22 miles. So you have a long time to talk in 22 miles. You know, it's not like you're going. So all branches, and it's a great thing. And so after a couple hikes that we've done, I was doing a the VFW 1 post in Colorado had me come out to do the speech and bring the sword. VFW post is an amazing post. They do a lot of alternative things. They don't really necessarily go for the standard VFW stuff. They do like, yoga and painting and just they try to throw some curveballs out to see if they can get some other people to participate. So they had me bring out the sword. So it was in Colorado. So I was like, hey, called her up. I said, why don't you give the pledge? So
Nice.
she gave the pledge, and there wasn't a dry eye in the group because she told her about her experience. And she said, this is why I'm here today, is because of this sword and the support from the veteran community. And the support from the veteran community is 100%. Like you won't turn somebody away. If I said, hey, Jay, I got a problem, whatever, I know I could call you anytime just because that's how we do it, and I think she didn't realize that she had that other than her one friend, but then she realized she had a whole community. And then she gave the speech to this group at the VFW. And when you give these speeches and when you talk this, not necessarily everyone wants to jump out and say, hey, I'm suicidal. I have a problem, right? PTSD. So, you can tell the people that, that need help versus people that maybe want to help, And so she had a very large crowd around her, and she gave a lot of people a reason to live and to have somebody that has given the pledge, that has taken the pledge because of the steel, because of what it means. It just made it all that more important and real. I've had 4 of my friends take their lives. Oh, wow. One of my corporals that I was stationed with took his life. Yeah. And it's just, it's a everyday thing, like it's not like somebody might know somebody. It happens to everyone, and
this is something that's near and dear to all of our hearts.
Absolutely.
Because we've all had a friend that has done that.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's good that she had a battle buddy.
Yes.
That cared about her that much.
Yes.
That
absolutely.
drove that far to pick her up and was there to talk to her and explain to her that it's not over. Yeah. And then she was able to turn around and change all those lives. Yeah. Things happen. Sure.
It was truly incredible. I can't tell you, like, that experience alone was worth every single waking minute I spend doing this and taking the sword. We have about 6-7 guys that do it. Couple retired guys. If none of us can make an event, we'll send it out. Try to find somebody that can accept it. Usually it's a firefighter, or we send it to Boone, or somebody else that's given the a speech or it has an event or whatever. Yeah. But it is, like, I tell you that was that first time I did it was I was sold. It was just such a great thing to see, and then also to have been a pre 9/11 veteran and seeing how much this day had affected so many people. Of course. Not just military, but obviously the entire country, but how, the military, this day is still part of their lives because they're overseas. They're fighting still to this day. The fight right now that they're fighting is because of the steel. So when they come back, they do the pledge. If they may not be in trouble, but they may promise somebody to get in that car and drive to Colorado, which we always joke about. That's a long drive. He's like, it was totally worth it, which it was. It 100% was, and that's the community that we have. The veteran community we have is that's what we do. Like, we will go that extra mile and say, you know what, I'll take care of it no matter what. So. Yeah.
People will ruin their marriages over stuff like that. Yeah, that's how important it is.
We have a very close community, and it's funny because I didn't know you at all since the first day I met you, and that was and then I could have a conversation with you for hours. I know it in the rest of Major Diaz's his crew over the American Legion. Like, it's a great group of people. But it's just the community itself, the veteran community itself. It's a great community, and American Legion, your post is awesome. You know, I've done some stuff in New York as well.
So what are some upcoming events with this sword that you're going to be heading out to, or some of your teammates are going to be heading out to?
It is going to Florida for a Spartan Pledge Day. Every year, this guy Sabo, who is part of this group in Miami, he does a Spartan Pledge Day where they have various events, a bunch of different veteran-run organizations. Mission 22's there. I Got Your Sixes there. Sometimes they have this awesome group from Florida called Beach Smoke. It's a bunch of retired firefighters who they do these events, the Spartan Pledge Day events, and they bring them there to that event as well. And it's just, again, you know, like I found a lot of times where a lot of these veteran meetings, meetups, whatever, there's a lot of people that know each other, but then there's a couple people that are like, you know what, I'm gonna give that a shot. You know, I'm having a hard time. I don't really know how to transition. I'm kind of at the end of my rope on what to do, and that one person is kind of like on the outskirts. Is you know, it's not, you know, we'll take him in. You know, like veterans take each other in. You know,
exactly.
I could walk up to somebody and see a tattoo or a hat or whatever, and then we just start, you know,
bonding.
Usually it's making fun of each other if it's a different branch service, because that's the most important
that
part.
Happens,
That's the most important part. You got to make fun of each other first.
Exactly.
But then you have that bond, you know, and that bond is awesome. That bond is it's instant. So for people that are transitioning, I think that they need that bond because they don't have that bond. They go out back into the regular world, and they don't have the same bond.
Yeah.
Because it's a different mindset. It's not necessarily a bad mindset, but it's just a different mindset. And I think that, you know, you can't have a conversation, whatever the conversation may be, with people that don't understand the mindset that we have.
Exactly.
You know, and it's not to discount, you know, the civilian life, but it is the military. It's a very, you know, you're kind of trained and set and
it's a completely different world.
It's a different world.
Yeah.
It's a different world. So it's very much, you know, this sword and everything that it does, it really helps a lot. It's also going to, on October 4th, Hudson Valley Vets, they have a boat making, they do this boat making. They're having a boat making display. So there's going to be, the sword's going to be there, as well as, who else is going to be there? There's a veteran wives group that is going to be there.
Okay.
And then a couple other people, as people from some other people that do this with me as well, are going to be there. And it is, you know, like it really is an awesome thing. I think I've been to about 10 different states so far this year with it.
You know, I would love to thank you for bringing this sword on the show, and it's very important to a lot of veterans out there, and it's good to educate people about what's out there for the veterans and what we're doing to help fight suicide.
Absolutely.
You know, and I would love to have you back again, you know, in the near future, to talk about some other things, maybe more about your military career, you know, but, you know, this was great, and thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yes. All right. And thank you for tuning in. And until next time, make sure you thank a veteran.